Hello dear viewer, and welcome back to your favorite program, Models of Faith. As we continue discussing more about St. Therese of the Child Jesus, I believe from our first session you've been inspired of who she was and how she lived her life. And now, I don't know if you've ever asked yourself, because for me, I always ask myself this question, of which I'd like some more clarity from our sister today. Why is it that sometimes St. Therese of the Child is also called St. Therese of Lisieux?
Okay. Her religious name actually is Saint Therese of the Child Jesus at the Holy Face. She's also called Saint Therese of Lisieux because that's where she entered. She entered at the Carmelites of Lisieux, which is a city in France, a town in France. So that's why she got that name, because that's where she was from, and that's where the convent was. And it was the Carmel of Lisieux, it was called. But her religious name, as I said, was Saint Therese of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face, meaning that after she entered, she received a picture from the Shroud of Turin of the face of Jesus, in which you could see from it the sufferings he went through. You know, his one side was swollen, his nose was broken. You could see where the crown of thorns had been. And so this also inspired her, like the love of the crucified, the love of Jesus who suffered so much for the salvation of human beings, of mankind. And so she had that devotion. Sometimes people forget. She really had a devotion to the suffering Christ. And this also helped her in accepting sufferings.
I can believe that, because the way you've shared about her sufferings, I know there are many other sufferings other than this one of the sister splashing dirty water on her.
But also her health, like once she contacted TB, that was she became bedridden. She couldn't do any kind of real physical work, and so these were also her way of offering up to God, what she could no longer do. That she was able to, at least this was her offering, and this was her prayer. That this was what God was asking of her, and she was willing to do it for him.
Great. Most of the times when we look at the photos on the net, or even on those hard copy photos of St. Therese of the Child Jesus, she's holding always a bouquet of flowers. Why is it so?
Because that's what she had said, that when she died, she would shower roses, meaning blessings, on whoever prayed, or on people, whoever would pray to her.
Praying through her
intercession, to intercede for, yes.
Beautiful.
So that's why she always has roses, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's why she's called the little flower.
Great.
Because of that her desire to continue to shower blessings, to show God's love to people, even though she was in heaven.
On the other hand, sister, many of the saints in the Catholic Church, they have patronages, like Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus, patron of. What is Saint Teresa related to?
Basically, she was first the patron of missionaries, of missions, because that was her desire. She would have loved to have been a missionary. After she entered, that's what she wrote in her autobiography. She would love to be a missionary, but because she was in the Carmel, because she was in the cloistered order, then her whole life, her prayers was also offered for missionaries. So when she was canonized in 1925, they put her as patroness of missionaries.
That means all the missionaries in the world, their patron is associated with St. Teresa of the Child Jesus,
yes,
no matter where you are.
Yeah.
How come that some congregations, they rely on saying Mother Mary is the patron of missions?
I just know with her, it's because of her desire to spread the love of God to all people.
Okay.
And maybe for Our Lady, because of her, being the mother of God, being the mother of Jesus, it's an automatic, to go out and spread the love of God to other people.
Now that St. Teresa of the Child Jesus is your iconic saint or your favorite saint, what miracles or what unique thing can you attest of St. Teresa of the Child Jesus?
Okay, my devotion to her, my love of the child Jesus stems from my family or from my mother. My mother had a great devotion to her, and in my own life story, my mother was not able to have children. She wasn't supposed to have children due to some physical problems, and she told me this story frequently. She prayed to Saint Therese for 3 years, and I'm here today. Yeah, so she always considered that a miracle because she never had another child, and the doctor even said it was unbelievable that she could have a child, but she attested it to her prayers to Saint Teresa. Yeah. And that's where my devotion started, of course, and I was named after her, and through my mother. You know, my mother had a real devotion to Saint Teresa, and she just passed it on to me.
Wow, beautiful. Has the life of Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus, has it in a way affected you being a religious?
I think when I look back now and I look at my journey in religious life, or my journey towards religious life, to my call, I think my mother read her story to me as, you know, a child's version, and I was drawn then to, I guess, to religious life through that story, through her love of the Lord. And when I entered the Missionary Sisters of the Precious Blood, I didn't realize at the time, I was just attracted. I wanted to be a missionary. But I think somehow her life inspired me to want to spread the love of God to the missions. And after I entered, I sort of see her hand in that because, like I said, the closeness of our inner spirit and her spirituality, so very close. And so I think along the way she was also guiding me to this congregation, you know, to understand. I mean, I had a great devotion also to the Passion of Christ, to the suffering Christ. And our congregation sort of widened it so that Jesus just didn't die, he also rose. You know, we have that Paschal mystery, spirituality. And so I think she guided me that way also, to see it's more than just Jesus dying for us, but he also rose. He's given us hope. He's given us, you know, that in spite of the sufferings we go through, there's resurrection. You know, there's always that light at the end of the tunnel. We don't have to despair. We don't have to give up. And I think she pushed me this way so that my spirituality would be grounded. It wouldn't be just focused just on the suffering Christ, but on Christ's suffering and risen.
Resurrection. Well, I admire your vocation story being linked to Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus with all these beauties around her. It's really an inspiration. Dear viewer, I believe you've gotten a lot of rich information about Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus. You might be out there and wondering, who is the best saint whom I can call as my intercessor or my patron saint? Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus can be one of them. And you know, this is the richness which we have in the Catholic Church when we pray through the intercession of saints. Just as Sister has given her testimony for her being here is out of the devotion and intercession of Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus. You could be out there also as a mother. You don't know what to do next because of situations which have come your way. But we have many intercessors in our church. Why don't you take that step of faith? Look and seek into the history of the Catholic Church and see whom can you emulate or embrace on as one of your patron saints. We thank the Lord for this day and for the gift of Sister Teresa Ann with us here in the studios. For we believe you've been enlightened, and also Saint Teresa can be your patron saint. We thank you, dear viewer, for being with us for this time. As we say, God bless you until we meet next time.